Hello and welcome to the Athletic Soccer Show. It's our post-game review. We're here to take a look at Portugal 6, Switzerland 1 in the round of 16. That is a big scoreline. My name is Jack Collins and I'm joined once again by the wonderful Mr. Peter Rutzler. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Who had 6-1? I certainly did not have that scoreline in my mind coming into this game, but blimey, what a night.
Some way to round off the round of 16, especially with the kind of the elements of that were a snooze fest of the earlier game. I think it wasn't totally drab, but there were times in the game where it did feel like it was dragging through those 120 minutes. This was explosive from the get-go, and plenty to discuss around it as well. So we'll get into it, but I think it's probably fair to start with the starting lineups, because Fernando Santos made two very, very bold calls. He dropped Cristiano Ronaldo for the young Benfica forward Gonçalo Ramos, and he dropped João Cancelo for Rafael Guerreiro, which was an equally bold, but maybe not as heralded decision, considering how good Cancelo has been for the last year and a half at least at Manchester City. Both of these decisions have been repaid with a vengeance. I think this is if you go into a dictionary and you look up vindication, you're just going to get pictures of this game now, I think.
You'll just get Fernando Santos still looking glum at 6-1 on the touchline as the definition. Yes, he was repaid handsomely, as they say, for that decision. I mean, for Ramos, his first international start, to score the first hat-trick of the World Cup, I mean, it's narrative overdrive. There's been so much good narrative in this World Cup, hasn't there? I mean, even today with Hakimi scoring the winning penalty, for Ramos to net a hat-trick with Ronaldo dropped, magnifique. It's just too much. It's getting too much. They need to wind it back a bit. I think we need a bit more, something to throw us off the scent
for the next couple of days.
Something to keep us busy. But oh my goodness, the perfect start. You know, the first goal is brilliant. We'll get on to Switzerland and how terrible they were and why they were so terrible in a minute. But just in terms of João Felix, who we'll talk about, amazing, a lovely turn, great little inside pass into Ramos, and bang, you know. I think on the ITV British coverage here, Ali McCoy's called it the exuberance of youth or something along those lines. And it did feel like that. You know, why is he shooting on his left side, trying to beat Jan Sommer, you know, one of the best keepers in the world, at his near post? But the venom he put into that shot was phenomenal. And once you get that goal, it settles the nerves. Fernando Santos can stop pacing so much. You know, things start to fall into line. But it's the perfect start. And from there, you know, he just had a killer instinct, you know. And I think with the creativity behind him, it felt like they were liberated. That's what the performance seemed like, you know, like an attacking team liberated to their full potential. And they scored the goals to match it.
Well, what I loved about watching Portugal tonight was how fluid and dynamic they were. And in so many ways, it was like a front five interchanging and playing in each other's positions. We had Gonçalo Ramos and João Felix as a sort of on paper front two. And then behind them, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes and Otavio. And they were just like completely and utterly freed to switch around at times. So Felix was picking up the ball at the defensive midfield spots from William Carvalho and driving forward. Bernardo was out on the wings at one point, chasing down the keeper to press at one point, and then picking the ball up off his own keeper about 5 seconds later. Bruno sort of drifted between the lines beautifully. Ramos peeled wide and ran the channels really well when he needed to, if someone else was coming through the center. And this is what I think is absolutely spot on about what you're saying about the like liberation. It just felt like for once they were able to just float around kind of with no kind of, there has to be a certain person in a certain position. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of people going one of two ways on this performance, I think, with the whole Cristiano Ronaldo thing, because there always is. It's such a divisive topic amongst football fans. And actually, I think that Cristiano Ronaldo at this World Cup has played relatively well. I think that Portugal have played to his strengths in terms of getting aerial balls around him and getting bodies around him so that they can run the overloads and sort of taking the pressure off him to press by putting a second player up front with him. I think Fernando Sanchez used him really well. But suddenly you have, maybe it is this exuberance of youth, but a player able to slot into different positions, able to play wide. We saw Gonçalo Ramos last year playing as kind of a facilitator figure for Darwin Nunez when he was the man scoring the goals at Benfica. This year, he has stepped up once again, become the figurehead. I think off the top of my head, he's got something like 14 goals, 6 assists in 21 odd starts for Benfica this season. He's been absolutely remarkable for them. He scored a Champions League hat-trick against Midtjylland earlier in the year. This is a player bang in form, who I didn't think was going to get almost any minutes behind Andre Silva and Cristiano Ronaldo at this World Cup. And suddenly he's exploded onto the stage like this. And Portugal looked, with him up top, like a pressing machine at times, and 2, like a side that were just able to play in their most kind of free, fluid, natural selves.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that energy, that's sort of breaking out of I don't want to say the chains, because as you say, it was working quite well. They had seemed to master that quite well. And to be honest, as this tournament progresses, having that option to be able to play to a centre forward, to a number 9, as we were discussing in the earlier podcast, and how important that is, that's really valuable. But Ramos is a different style. He's younger. He has the energy. He can press in a way that Ronaldo simply can't anymore. And this was the outcome. I think Felix really underlines that liberation point. And it doesn't just apply, obviously, to the Portugal team. It applies to him at Atletico Madrid. And, there's so much speculation about his future. And I think that the CEO today was speaking on Spanish TV about potentially being open to offers, because it just doesn't quite work. This is what you get when you get a player like Felix at Atletico Madrid in a structured defensive style, basically on very crude terms. But here, able to drift into those spaces, pick up the ball in deep areas. There was one run in the first half that was absolutely glorious, turned and just glided across the pitch. That's the talent that Atletico bought for that massive €100 million plus fee that they invested in. And we saw that. And then suddenly you add that to Bruno Fernandes, and then Bernardo Silva just drifting around, picking up space, playing 1-2s with Guerrero in advanced positions. They suddenly look like a formidable team. And it was really enjoyable to watch, really, really enjoyable. And I would say Switzerland really did make it easy for them.
Yes.
And Swiss cheese and holes. I mean, they were offering some marketing for it, I think, because it was just the change in shape did it for them. And the fact they didn't bring a backup right back, I mean, it just seems that came together tonight. That's hurt them tonight. And we're so used to Switzerland being, I said they reek of competency, I think, on a previous pod, and they do, but clearly that's all been undone here. I think a Switzerland that sets up the way they normally do, with Solon Widmer at right back, they cause so many problems for Portugal, and they ask different questions. And maybe there's the same outcome, but you wouldn't get a scoreline like this. They certainly would not have been as open as they were tonight.
Yeah, this 3 at the back felt like a bit of a madness to begin with. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to achieve with it. Now, they can't have known that Cristiano Ronaldo was going to be dropped for this game. Maybe they've done that with him in mind, and that you can have a centre-back pinning on one player and the other 2 sort of go, venturing forth to make challenges. I can see maybe how that would have worked. But as soon as Ramos was that, and he was moving around, he was drifting out to the channels, he was dropping in deep at times, they had no answer. And it did feel, it was mentioned as well on the commentary, that the 3 of them had no one to mark. And so they kept sort of getting randomly dragged out of position. Ricardo Rodriguez, who is a left back by trade, he has played left centre back before, but he's played most of his career at left back, just sort of out wide and high at one point, higher than Vargas in front of him. And you're going, hang on, you're meant to be a centre back. What are you doing out there? Like that is not your job tonight. Your job tonight is to be a solid, sturdy back 3. And yeah, I completely agree. I think obviously Fabian Schär was taken off at halftime. It looks like an injury, but I think they could have pulled him anyway, because he was having a nightmare of an evening and just unable to really get in the game. And we've seen Switzerland, as you say, so competent, so solid at the back. They don't lose games by these kind of scorelines. This is just not the Switzerland that we know. And so many players just completely unable to get into the game, bypassed completely. Xhaka missing, Freuler missing. So I don't think touched the ball in the first half.
He did. Shaqiri, I actually checked it. I did check it. He did touch the ball, but it did feel like that.
Shaqiri had the free kick, and then that was kind of it. Vargas was kind of just helping out and doubling up on João Felix when he went out on the left. These players were just sort of bypassed by the efficacy and also the exuberance of this Portugal team. And they made them look incredibly substandard. The question is, this is a Switzerland team, yes, in a far more cohesive form, but one that kept Brazil to a 1-0 scoreline and kept Brazil out for a long, long period. And Portugal have just torched them.
But that's the thing. It's so hard. You can't really compare the Brazil game to this because of exactly what you just said in terms of the team they set up. You had those round pegs and square holes, or the other way around. I can't remember what the expression is, but it's something like that. But you did. Ricardo Rodriguez was one. I really felt sorry for Edmilson Fernandez. I know. I think he's played at right back before, but he's not a right wing back. This is the issue.
He's got to stop wearing two, though, if he doesn't want to be played at right back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he set himself up for failure there. You've got Vargas on the left. You've got Fernandez on the right. And the two of them are wing backs. They're not wing backs, sorry. They're not natural wing backs. And wing back is a really technical position to do with spacing and positioning. You need to know when to go, when to stay, the areas to cover. And Fernandez, my goodness, I felt so sorry for him. He was just torn apart. You had Rafael Guerreiro operating in those half spaces with Felix drifting around. Bernardo Silva, I mean, to be fair, it was a little bit cruel, actually. And this was the outcome. This is a natural outcome if you're going to play players in unfamiliar positions in those roles. And that's how you end up with this kind of scoreline. And again, it comes back to the squad selection. Clearly he must have thought about this, Murat Yakin. He must have thought, if the worst happens and we lose Vidma, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be in a back three and we're going to be used to it. And it just felt like they weren't. And sure, personnel. But the thing is, it just affected everyone. Vargas was great in the games I've seen him, one-on-one. There were moments at the start of the game where it looked like he was going to ask a few questions of Diogo Dalot. But then he's exhausted from covering his spacing. He doesn't know when to drop and to sit. They're caught time and time again in transition. So you lose him. You lose Rodriguez, as you said, who's so important. They've already lost Vidma on the other side. So then you've just got Brill and Bolo and Sheridan Shaqiri. They're feeding off scraps. And it's a shame because they're a team, when they're knitted together properly, are really effective. And we didn't see that tonight, and it's cost them horrendously.
Yeah, I agree. One of the players who might not get the limelight, but I wanted to highlight because I thought he was excellent tonight, was William Carvalho. Because there were times right at this beginning where this game threatened to be a little bit more of an even contest, as you say. There were moments where Portugal were struggling to find the ball into the front four, front five, and they were just knocking it around at the back without anywhere to really go with it. And I thought Carvalho was really, really impressive in the way that he just noticed this, dropped in, split the centre backs, and allowed Portugal to just move the ball wide and find the players that they needed to shift the fullbacks a little bit higher up, to get Guerreiro into those areas. I just thought he's one of those players that often doesn't get the credit he deserved. He's nicknamed the Velvet Tank, Betis, and it's a wonderful nickname. But he is one of those players who just never really seems to lose the ball. He just knows the positions to take up. And whilst he doesn't, hold the superstar status that so many of these attackers do, and even some of the players behind him, Ruben Dias is kind of lauded all the time as one of the great centre backs. Pepe is a legend, a super villain of the game. Cristiano can take some tips if he wants to learn how to be a really effective super villain from his old mate Pepe, maybe. I just think William was excellent tonight, just knitting everything together, and especially when he was tasked with Otavio and Bernardo in front of him, neither of whom are natural defensive midfielders by trade. He's often played in a double pivot for Portugal with Ruben Neves or with Palhinha or with Danilo Pereira, lots of different players, but they've usually played a 4-2-3-1. They've shifted that just before the tournament, and I think he's done a really, really good job at the base of midfield. So I just wanted to bring him up because nice to give
nice to give a Betis man a shout out as well, isn't it, Jack? But yeah, no, absolutely. The way he sort of worked in the system, dropping in just to that left back space quite often with Guerreiro, and that was key. That Guerreiro had such a big influence on this game, able to join in midfield, make the difference. Otavio as well, I thought was really good. I thought the two of them, Otavio and William, really sort of worked quite well together, and it was quite a nice balance. And the team itself was pretty well balanced. So I think that's really encouraging for for Portugal going forward. Obviously, they weren't tested as much as they would normally. Second half was a little bit more balanced, but I think you put it pretty well at the start.
Game
The
state,
midfield
right?
for Switzerland was missing. Well, yes, game state. But they were effective, and when you've got forwards who can get, who want like Bernardo Silva, like Felix, like Fernandes, like Otavio as well. You need someone there to offer your insurance policy, and he offers good rates, William.
Yes, he does. He does indeed. The last thing to discuss from a Portugal perspective, I think, is the fact that Rafael Leao came on and scored his second international goal, and it's an absolute corker. It's a bit like I'd written in my little notebook, because I have a little notepad for all these games, and I'd written, time's running down, Portugal conserving some energy now. Leao on, he'll want something. And then the next line is goal. He'll get something. Leao canters down the left and curls a beauty into the far corner. And it did feel like he was like, no, I'm not leaving this one without one for me. It's my time. It feels like a day for the youth prospects. He said, I've just seen Gonzalo score a hat-trick. There's absolutely no way that I'm not getting my name on the score sheet. And he did so. And that's why there's so many people after Rafael Leao, because of moments like that.
Yeah. That's nice live blogging in your notebook, I think. Icing meat cake, I think I put for mine, but it's like a little reminder, isn't it? This is the quality and depth that Portugal have. This is a player that is a standout in Serie A for Milan and isn't getting in the team. So it's kind of a statement moment in a way. I think someone must be unsighted with that. I mean, it was a brilliant strike, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't seem to react to it. Maybe he's just defeated. He's like, oh, I might not get to this. Probably a bit down after the flu outbreak that they had or something. I don't know. Lovely goal, though. Lovely finish. There were some really good goals as well tonight from Portugal. They almost pulled off an amazing one. I think it's the one where they have a long passage of play. Switzerland they've just conceded. Then Bernardo Silva sort of turns in the middle of the pitch and then switches it to Guerrero, who's just bolted from left back. Volleys it first time across the box. And you're thinking, hold on. This is a special goal. And Fernandes just can't quite reach it. Not that the other goals weren't great. I mean, but
no.
that would have been
the other five. Really... Fine, yeah, no problem about that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Well, it leaves us with a Morocco-Portugal quarter-final, which is incredibly exciting for a variety of reasons. But it does throw up some questions for Fernando Santos, because he made those bold calls. Part of this, you'd imagine, the selection, or at least the drop from Cristiano Ronaldo, was due to the fact that he said he wasn't happy with the attitude he displayed when he was substituted against South Korea. So there would have been part of this that was like warning, part of it this punishment, part of it, I suppose, he thought maybe there was a tactical tweak that could work. But you can't drop Gonzalo Ramos, surely, after he scored a hat in the round of 16, which leaves him with a difficult question to have with his captain, a difficult conversation to have with his captain, I think.
I mean, as much as Ronaldo is Ronaldo, surely he can see why he might lose his place in the quarterfinal as well after seeing Ramos perform as well as he did today. There was a picture, actually, because I was on live blog duty for The Athletic, that was popped in our channel, that had Ronaldo with his head in his hands. And apparently that was after Ramos' second goal. I'm not sure if it was, but, there must be a realization there.
I don't necessarily buy this.
It's a photo, isn't it? It's a photo.
Exactly. There's going to be loads of this, and he was involved in the celebrations of all of the goals. So I'm going to give the man some credit there, a little bit, just because I've been very harsh on him in the past, and I've been critical of his continued starts when I didn't think he was offering all that much for this Portugal team. I've also said at the start of this podcast, obviously, that I think he's played well in this World Cup, but I don't think I can see why he might have been like, oh God, this could be a problem, but I don't think it was not celebrating.
The point still stands that he has to. It's a realization that you're not getting your place back, surely. And I mean, whatever the extent of the infringement that Santos has picked up on, it's one of those, isn't it? I mean, if he does, then fair enough. Maybe it'll be a tactical element. But considering the energy that Morocco play with, and the way I think that back four are so well screened by Amrabat, but they weren't tested really with runners in behind. I feel like Ramos would get a little bit more joy. And Ronaldo's a great finisher to have. I think it was mentioned by Gary Neville again on a British coverage that, throw Ronaldo on in the Spain game and suddenly, maybe they get a winner. They probably do get a winner, to be honest, because they have that more of a focal point. But he's still got a role to play, and that's the important thing for Santos. How to get the best out of Ronaldo so that he could, improve Portugal's chances of winning this tournament, because they have to be considered serious contenders. So there's no doubt about it. I mean, as much as Switzerland faffed around with their formations and their shapes and general performance levels, as you said earlier, they did hold Brazil. They are a really tough team to play against. They're a streetwise team. They're smart. They've been completely torn to shreds. So, got to get the best out of Ronaldo. I can't see Ramos not starting. Why would you change that team? Same goes for Cancelo at left back. Unless you're forced, I'd keep it as it is, and I'm sure he's thinking the same thing.
Yes, I agree. Right, well, we'll actually be previewing the quarterfinals on tomorrow's episode of the Athletic Soccer Show. So you and I are going to be back, Peter, to talk about that one. I'm going to be joined by some brilliant other guests from across the Athletic as well. I'm very excited about it. So that'll be with you tomorrow. But for now, all that's left to do is say thank you so much for listening to the Athletic Soccer Show today. Thank you so much to Mr. Peter Rutzler.
No, thank you, Jack. It's been good fun. It's been a good day of action.
It's always good fun, Peter. I've been Jack Collins. This has been your post-game review. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.